Hello, this is part 2 of the NSBAR new lease information. So let's go back to where we were before, of going into the tutorial. This is where we left off. So you will open up a tutorial on the web page, which you saw in part 1 on how to get to. So now we're going to start going over the lease itself. What you will do is on the tutorial, whenever there's a blank, if you will put your mouse, don't click, but put your mouse on the blank, it will give you information on how to fill out that information. Now, every once in a while, because I had to add other notes, I didn't know how else to do it, so I used something like this. So if you put the mouse over it, then it'll give you information. This information right now is basically saying, hey, this is how you use it. Put your mouse over it. Do not click it, and it'll give you the information. The next part of the information was written by the attorney. That kind of talks about that we're pleased to be offering you this lease. It will give you information. It is also always asking you to always have the attorneys look this over. So let's read the whole thing. Well, let's not. You can read it yourself. I'm sorry. Okay, so where we're going to go is to what we've done with this lease is the first 2 pages of the lease are actually fill-in information. And then the last part of the lease, the next 10 pages of the lease, are just a deeper explanation of what's going on. So this could potentially, we're hoping this will be a lot easier for the agents to fill out. So what you have first is the date of the lease. Well, what do we mean by this? What we're talking about is the date the tenant is signing this lease, this piece of paper. Then lease terms. This is going to be the first day of the lease, when the lease begins for the tenant, when the tenant has to start paying for the house and gets the house. And then, of course, you have the ending day. That's when the tenant is out of the house, he's paid all the money, everything's over. Now, what we've done is, again, remember that this lease isn't just for one area, but it goes into a lot of different areas, and a lot of different areas have different laws. So what we have is a base monthly rent, and then if you happen to want to add other fees to the rent, let's say for parking, then you would put it in total rent. So the monthly rent is the base amount of the rent, and then the total rent would be any other additions that you're going to add to their rent. Now, every once in a while in the tutorial, you're going to see a blue box surrounding it. That's a hyperlink that's going to take you someplace else. You'll find on this form that it talks about, like right now, pet deposit. Well, there is an addendum that you can add for a person if you're going to allow them to bring in the pet. So the blue box gives you a link to the pet deposit. Now, with the pet deposit, it wasn't an addendum that you needed, that it was actually, sorry about that, that it was, takes you to the HUD page that helps explain what are service animals and what we would have to consider as a pet. So if you have your favorite cat you're bringing in, that's what you want to lease, then you would have a pet deposit. If you had a seeing eye dog and you were blind, then that's not considered a pet. That is a service animal. So what we try to do is explain that. So you cannot add more money with a service animal. So anyway, and then here's where you put the deposit. There can be no deposit if there's a service animal. Then there's a space for monthly assessment fees, monthly storage fees, parking, monthly rent due on lease signing if there's an additional amount, late charges, return checks, default rate. Now you'll go on to paragraph 6 that will talk about default rates, and any security deposits. And please make sure on your security deposit that you're checking with the municipal code in the place where the community where the house is located so that you have the right laws. Then right down here, you're going to do what the tenant is responsible for payment. So you put all of that information in there. Now the next area is this simple one. That's the parties. You're putting all their information in. Next section is the premise. The premise consists of one residential dwelling unit located at unit number whatever it is, and it gives the address. And then it'll have any other items that you need to click off on there. Now here's something a little bit newer that we haven't done, and that's the smoking is or is not permitted. Now we've made the lease at the bottom part of the lease the same as the multi-board contract, where it has where all of the parties initial and then it has the address so that you know with each page. Now on page 2, you're going to see a lot of boxes. These boxes on this page does take you to North Shore Barrington webpage to get an additional addendum. So the Contracts and Forms Committee has put together a gorgeous application for a lease. So you can click here to go straight to it. This will take you to the web page. I hope. Slow but sure. Please. And this takes you to the application lease. And this can be filled out online also. And then what you're going to do is have the landlord initial, the tenant initial. Then you've got the property inventory and condition report. Again, the Contracts and Georgia Perini's Contracts and Forms Committee has done a spectacular job of putting that together. This is the link to it. You've got, if somebody wants to try to buy the house after leasing it, there is some information on there. Condominium Homeowners Association declaration, bylaws, whatever, you have to have those ahead of time. We don't have those, so there's no link to it, but everybody signs it. If there's a pet addendum, any other addendums, Rental Property Utility Service Act addendum, which will get you into what laws those are and what areas, and then get you into the again, different forms that you need. If there's any renter's insurance that you're asking them to, and then you have the regular notices, the notices that you know by law that you have to give when you're renting or selling. So you've got the radon, you have the lead paint, the disclosure of your agency notice, and if there needs to be a disclosure on dual agency. And also here's another box that says once you have both landlord and tenant approve the approval to act as dual agent, then the lease they sign incorporates a reconfirmation of previous permission to act as a dual agent. And again, that's covered in paragraph 28. So that just gives you some more information. And then in Chicago, they have the heating cost disclosure statement that you have to, and we have that form, so you can use that. And then there's any notice on if the landlord or the tenant has a real estate license, and then everybody signs it. Now, the rest of the lease are the terms and conditions, and we do think that an awful lot of these are self-explanatory if you took the time to read the information ahead of time. So just like number 4 right here shows rekeying locks. So what I would assume is that you had read the Illinois Association of Realtors brochures on all the different laws, so you understand what the rekeying is. Now there can be from time to time there's not too many blanks in the next 2 pages, but like the security deposit, I didn't know how else to put that, so I tried to give you links to the different communities, the 4 communities that we do know of and what they have. So we've got this little yellow box that says, please check with the community where the property is located to ascertain whether there is special laws on security deposits, such as Chicago and Evanston. So you're going to take care of that. There's another, here's another one on the Rental Property Utility Service Act addendum, which will give you information on that. There is a blank here, don't forget that. Liability, renter's insurance. And basically the end of the lease. So this is, again, what I showed you was the tutorial. You will find on our webpage the lease itself. So it's just exactly what I showed you before, except it doesn't have all of the, the bubbles opening or whatever. So the tutorial is just for educational purposes. It is the lease itself that you would be filling out. I hope that I have been able to answer some of your questions. We hope that you're going to like the lease. Again, we decided to make the decision to talk to you first so that you can talk to your agents about this new lease. We have added this program on our webpage so you can look at it later. If you have any questions, please email me at terry@nsbar.org, and I will do my best to answer that question or find somebody that can answer that for you. On behalf of the North Shore Barrington Association of Realtors, I want to thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you. Bye.